I can't believe this.
We noticed.
I just told my dining table how much I want to be here on the seat, and they are all backing me up.
Power of focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question I want to ask is, I want to feel more joy in my life.
So where is joy in relationship to the other feelings you have in terms of offenness? Here's really the way we would like to frame the question. So there's joy, which is connection, and often enough connection under the influence of source that you are allowing momentum, which perpetuates more, which perpetuates more, which perpetuates more. So there is joy, and then there is the really contrasting emotion of fear or grief. And then there is joy, and there is a somewhat contrasting emotion in the sense that there's less momentum in it. Hear the subtle distinction. So there is joy, and there is fear. Far apart. And there is joy, and there is contentment or satisfaction. And there is more momentum in joy. So what happens so often, if people are feeling some anger or some frustration or some blame and guilt or fear, and from that steady place, which is not where you usually are at all, from that sort of steady place, they're seeking joy, it's quite a stretch, and it's quite a vibrational difference. There's enough resistance that's hammering on your door every day that it keeps that momentum from moving toward joy. But if you're hanging around in the vicinity of satisfaction and contentment and interest, then from that vibrational place where there is no resistance really, it's not as much momentum, and so let's be clear, let's be fair. If there is less momentum, there is more resistance. Isn't that right? Have you ever let yourself loose on a mountain with no resistance? It's a fast ride down. So we're just suggesting that, tending to your vibration on a day-to-day basis, not needing it to be joyful, liking it to be, but not needing it to be joyful, but feeling the satisfaction in the interest that you feel and the fascination that you have with something, or the appreciation that you have for this or that or the other. As you hang around in those frequencies, then momentum carries you often to that joyous feeling.
Somehow I just feel that I have that difficulty in building up the momentum.
Well, you don't have to build it up. You just have to stop doing that thing you're doing that doesn't let it build up naturally. That's like saying, I'm jumping off of this stage and I'm going to try real hard to go down. I'm going to try real hard to land down rather than up. Well, you're going to land down because there is already something in motion. In other words, there's a law. And so the law of the universe says that you are naturally connected to this source energy. And this source energy is naturally calling you toward that joy. And you would naturally and easily and frequently go if you were not the entertainer of thoughts, we're talking about you and everyone else, that is slowing that momentum down. So a fun thing to say is, when you catch yourself doing that, is I'm doing that again. Really, the path to more consistent joy is first a desire for it, next an understanding of when you are in the state of allowing it or not, but next, you see, if you are noticing that you don't feel joyful, then that notice won't let joy come. Just the very awareness that you don't feel joyful is resistance that keeps it from coming. And so the key is to notice the pieces of life that do feel sort of kind of like that. Satisfied with what is. Satisfied with orneriness and eager for joy. Satisfied with the best I can do right now, with this knee-jerk reaction to life right now, not condemning myself, not blaming myself, not writhing in the discomfort of negative emotion, acceptance of it, and appreciation of my guidance system. and acknowledgement of how I feel, and awareness that I can feel when I have resistance in the equation and I can feel when I don't, and an eagerness for more or a willingness for more. In other words, less self-scrutiny, a lot less self-condemnation, a whole lot more savoring of things, enjoying of things. We're going to stretch this into absurdity a little bit, but it's like saying to your children, are you going to wear that color of socks? Are you really going to wear your hair like that? I don't like the way you did that or said that. And then suddenly, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And they're not prepared. Do you feel the absurdity of that? No one would do that. You all do that, in a sense, to one another. But in a sort of similar sense, it's allowing yourself to observe life and feel the emotions as they come, and then say, I want more joy. And we say, of course you want more joy. So let's say, and this is not you, let's say you're in despair and you want joy. Well, you got to practice a little anger before you're going to get to joy. Or you've got to practice a little non-thought, which is what meditation does. Let's say you are feeling guilty a lot, or angry a lot, or blameful a lot. Well, you've got to practice a little appreciation before you can find your way all the way to joy. You see what we're getting at?
Yeah, I have been listening to your message for about 5 years. I came to many cruises, and I listen to you on YouTube every day, and I kind of told myself all the things that you just said to me. But somehow I'm still not quite there. I don't get the feeling. I'm not unhappy, but somehow I'm not feeling joy.
Well, that's why we started with wanting to help you with the distinction between satisfaction and joy. Now, do you ever feel satisfied?
Some moments.
So when you reluctantly acknowledged that you were who we were pointing at, when it finally dawned on you that it really was you, did you just feel complacency?
I kind of expecting that, but somehow I don't quite...
Expecting what?
Expecting that this can happen, but then I'm not...
All right, so this matters a lot. Are you saying to us that it was the next logical step, really, that...
Yes and no, because of how...
Well, let's just stay with the yes part.
Okay. Okay.
It was sort of expected by you and by others. And in that sense, it was sort of the next logical step. And we think that what happens to so many of you is that you acclimate to non-resistant feelings, and then you don't acknowledge that they are non-resistant feelings because they become the norm.
Not really, but somehow there is that part of unbelief. I still have that part of...
Do you hear how hard you're arguing for this limitation? Do you hear how hard you're trying to convince us that you are joyless? Which is just not true at all. In the same way that you didn't get it, that we were pointing at you, you don't let joy in sometimes when it's pointing right at you. And that's really your point. I don't let it in, and you're asking why, and we're asking why, and you're asking why, and we're asking why, and you're asking why, and you're asking why, and we're asking why. So if you know something is there and you know you want it, why don't you go get it? Why not go get it? Why argue against it? Well, Abraham, if I could go get it, I promise you I would have gone and gotten it, because I've wanted it for about 5 years and I've been looking for it. And we say, you have to let yourself acknowledge when there's a piece of it active within you and then feed that piece. You can't look for it when for sure it isn't there, because that's the wrong time to look for it. You look for it when there's a little piece of it that is there. So that's what we were wanting to do, is help you to define what pieces are present within you, pieces of emotion, so to speak. Sort of a wacky way to say that, but what pieces, what moments in time are you feeling emotions that are close enough to that, that if you would just stay on the beat of that, that you would get all the way there? But in most cases, and we know it's true here, it's a human trait. You picked it up from each other. We want you to get over it. And it is that you deprive yourself of joy in an attitude that you're not supposed to feel joy. you really don't think that you're supposed to feel joy. Like there's something, you're going to argue with us about that. We're happy to hear your words.
Somehow there's just something that's holding me back, and I didn't even quite know how joy feels.
Let's say you're at an intersection on a highway, and you could turn right, or you could turn left. When Jerry and Esther first were interacting with us, there was a couple in the same town they lived in Phoenix. And Esther was not receiving like this. She was sitting at her word processor and receiving, but she was not translating words in this smooth flow that she is now. And they decided to play a game. So Jerry and Esther said to their friends, go somewhere and hide, go somewhere and wait for us, and we will ask Abraham to find you. Now, Phoenix is a big place. It is about 50 miles to one end of it and the other. So it was a lot of opportunity for them to hide. Jerry was driving and Esther was guiding by saying, go this way, 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 go this way. When they finally caught up with them many hours later, 2 tanks of gas later and 4 Snicker bars. When they finally caught up with them, the couple said, well, we were behind the dumpster by the Mountain Shadows Hotel. Esther said, first we went to the dumpster behind the hotel at Mountain Shadows on Mountain Shadows Road. And they said, oh, we were there, but we got the impulse to go somewhere else. And then Esther said, well, we were behind Benihana's on Scottsdale Road. And they said, we were there too, but we got the impulse to go someplace else. So we're telling you this story because we want you to know that Esther's guidance was working. She could feel where to go, and they were hot on the trail of that. But sometimes they would come to a junction in the road, and Esther would say, don't go that way, which meant her impulse was to go that way. And really, it doesn't make very much difference if the impulse is this rather than this. It's still an impulse. It's the impulse to go that way. It's the impulse to go in the direction of what you're wanting. But if you are habitually saying, I don't want to be joyless, pretty soon you stop feeling the impulse to be joyful. In other words, you can't be too fixated on something that you want that you're not getting without doing more of the beating of the drum and therefore more of the vibration about what you don't want than about what you do want. And one of the reasons that we really wanted to start with this conversation is because you are not alone in this. You are a sensitive woman. You can feel emotions within you. We just know for sure that there are many more opportunities where if you would hang in there just for a moment longer, you would get all the way to where you're going. Everything that you want, just like Jerry and Esther's friends who were moving out ahead of them. The game was on. Jerry and Esther were going to catch up with them. But we were playing the game with all of them. We were saying, follow him there, and then we would tell them, go over there. And then we would tell Jerry and Esther, go over there, and then we would tell them, go over there. And that's the way life is, in that you're constantly gathering new questions and new desires, and what you're reaching for is always out ahead of you. And so we want you to not be so quick to want to capture the prize that you're going for. We want you to enjoy the journey of the going. We want you to acknowledge how much satisfaction you have on your way to those really joyful moments.